everyone. Today we got to play Space Station Phoenix. So this obviously is a space-themed game. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are awesome. Even though I'm talking really weird, it's like a space voice.
Yes, it does sound like you've got something going on, low oxygen or something.
Yeah, something's going on. All right, Randy, tell us a little bit more about Space Station Phoenix.
So this was a 2022 release. It's got a Board Game Geek rating currently of 8.3, a Board Game Geek rank surprisingly of 10,272. That's because it's brand new. 2 to 4 players, average length of 60 to 120 minutes. Age 14 and up, which seems a little high. I mean, there is a lot of iconography, but it seems like 14 is a little high. Designed by Gabriel J. Cohn. Art is by Martin Hoffman and Klaus Stefan. Published by Rio Grande Games. MSRP on this is a little pricey, $79.99. Card House has it for $55.49. Miniature Market, $59.99. So Card House is 50 cents cheaper, but they're available readily at both.
Well, I mean, I do want to call out, though, you're saying $74.99 is a little high.
$79.99.
So, but there's a lot of littles.
There's a lot of bits.
Like, we didn't run out of anything. So they made sure to give you many.
We were only playing 2-player, and it plays 4, so...
Right, but we barely touched the 5s, if any at all, or at least I didn't. So, I mean, I think there's a lot here. Mm-hmm. But let's get into quality of pieces. Now, I really do like the power crystals that you got going on, but I will say the water cubes and the plant cubes left a little, and the steel even left me a little desirous.
Well, the steel leaf was metallic looking.
Right, I mean, they did the right colors.
The crystals bother me more than anything. Because,
really?
Well, the purple and the whitish, clearish ones, you could see through them. The ones were all orange plastic. You couldn't see through them. The orange ones were all
but I like that better
solid.
than the cubes.
Yeah, well, they were shaped appropriately, but it's like, why did they not go with the see-through for all 3 of them? I mean, it didn't make much sense to me.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I didn't even notice anything like that. And your aliens, they are slightly different in the fact they're a different shape. But again, it's a lot of wood pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot. Now, talking about card quality, no linen finish. I mean, thickness is okay, but you're not dealing with them a lot, so that's fine.
The alien races I thought was interesting because you draw them out of a bag, and you're supposed to draw randomly. Well, they're different shapes, so you're going to feel that when you reach into the bag. So I just had to try to grab a whole bunch at once, but when I did, then you got to get an exact number. So, when you get close to that number, because it's a pretty high number, it's like 50, I think it was, I had to draw out of the bag, and I was like, early on it wasn't a problem, but when I get close to the 50 mark, then I have to be precise. Well, now I got to be careful because I want to not pick something by the shape of it.
Right.
And then, we got a triangle, a square, and a cylinder, and then a octagonal shape that are all in that bag. So there's definite differences between them.
Yeah. I mean... Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't go with the same shape on them. I can understand from a color perspective, color blindness.
Well, they're making it color code friendly.
Yeah.
Because you can do the shapes where if you're colorblind, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I get it. I do. But
it does make randomizing, when it tells you to randomly select them, a little more difficult.
Correct. They could have put the shape on the whatever screen print, but whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean... So there is a lot of chits. I'm not impressed with anything.
No, I do like the custom dice. They were nice.
Yeah, but that's about it. So for this, I'm probably going to give this a 6.5.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm at too. It's got, the cardboard's a nice thickness, but there's nothing outstanding. I mean, it's in typical Rio Grande fashion. It's a kind of an average quality game. It's not from a component perspective. Rio Grande is not known for high-end pieces.
All right, so now let's talk about theme. So this game obviously is a space-themed game. You are creating your own space station, and then there are some, you have a cluster of ships that's building this, and sometimes you can, scrap those ships to gain the materials that you need to actually build onto the station. And then, so you're going about that, and you're trying to get the different aliens on the ship, as well as possibly humans that can then survive on the ship or on the space station as well. So there's a couple of things going on. Overall, I thought the theme was fine. I think it worked with what you're trying to do. I like the idea of oh, I'm going to take this and basically have it so I can build, I thought that was actually a pretty interesting thing. I liked it actually. I thought it was a pretty cute theme. The art's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits. And the mechanisms were obviously there. So I did actually enjoy it for a space theme. I actually kind of enjoyed this one. What did you think?
I thought the name of the thing sounded like something that Michael Scott would come up with on The Office. It sounded very, very Michael Scott-esque. So when I saw this game, I thought this looked like, well, it's a sci-fi theme. I mean, it like Rio Grande Games, okay. So I'd give it a try. I liked it sounded like it was an engine building type game. So I thought, well, it seems interesting from that perspective. But then when I looked at the components, I'm like, not sure. It doesn't really stand. It doesn't give me a space feel. The space station. It's just a bunch of iconography. There's nothing. I mean,
that's
look
very
at the art
spacey,
behind
though.
it.
It's very spacey, though.
Yeah, I mean, say so. I mean, the planet board has planets on it, and there's spaceships on it. The cards I like. The card art I like a lot. And it looks like space, but the main board, it's just a cluster of iconography. It's hard to see.
Well, I mean, there's stuff on there.
Yeah.
It's a space station.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. It doesn't give me a huge space feel. I was running an engine and trying to build it up.
Okay, so
I did like the spaceships on the cards and the scrapping of the cards. I thought that.
Yeah, the theme. Yes, the cards were better than the board.
Yes.
I will openly admit to you to that. So I agree with that assessment. The ships, as far as theme goes, is where it was at. But I did like some of the mechanisms that were kind of implied into the space station. I thought it was cool that you're building your lower ring, but before you can build your lower ring, higher rings, you have to build your lower rings. And that made a lot of sense to me too, because a lot of times, I'm just going 1, 2, 3. Where this was kind of cool in the fact that you could kind of see it and you could kind of go, oh, I can build this one thing, and then I can move to another, or I can start small and end up big. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. But so overall, what do you think score-wise for this theme?
Probably about 7. I mean, I think it's okay. It's a kind of space theme. It's on there. The spaceships, I think, carry it okay. I don't feel like the central board or the player boards really feel spacey.
I mean, it is, yeah. I can see what you're saying there. I'm actually going to give this a 7.5, sheerly because the scrapping mechanism for the card, I loved it so much. And I thought that was a fantastic play on the theme. So for that reason, I like to give it a little bit higher just because I really liked that particular mechanic. All right, so now let's move on to Rulebook. You actually were reading this for a while I was...
Yeah, it was a lengthy rulebook. It's 28 pages.
Ooh, that's a minute.
The first page is just directly into the contents, no cover. It goes into, it goes through and shows all the pictures of the contents. Goes through a section on the definitions of the different things. Honestly, I skipped that section first because I was really wanting to get into what is the gameplay. And I'm not a big fan of when they do that, where they give you all the definitions up front. Just show me how to play and put the definitions into the sections. But then, I had to keep referencing it whenever I'd hit one because they wouldn't explain what it was. So I had to go back and forth. Because if you put it all up front, I'm going to forget it when I get to the part where I'm actually using it. That goes into the setup. Setup was clear, and I do like the fact that they called out, like, for the first time to ease you into the game, they put in blue background, the setup for specifically which cards to use, which outposts to use, the different variants that you're going to apply for the first game. I thought that was well done. There already is errata about the rulebook out there. Some of the pictures, the examples they gave, the photos don't depict what is being stated in the text. So there are some problems with that already. I think the errata's only got 4 or 5 bullet points right now, but they're going to add to it as it goes. So they could have used some more editing, that's for sure. I don't think they're detrimental to the gameplay. A lot of them, it was exactly what I just said. It was the photo didn't really depict what they specified in the thing. So if you didn't pay a lot of attention to the detail on the photo, it wouldn't be a big deal. But if you set it up precisely to the photo, you'd run into problems. It goes through a lot of examples on gameplay, which is really helpful because there are some quirks to the game that you have to understand. And then, but it's not a difficult game. I would call this probably a medium level game. And then at the end, of course, in-game scoring, which they do a whole page on how to score, an example of how to score. They give you these cheat sheets that are full page cheat sheets front and back. One is a reference sheet for all of the different upgrades to your spaceport that you can make, and also the opening, the hubs, they call them, the outpost in the middle. And then the other one is kind of what you do on a turn, and then the score sheet on the back. So you can actually make a photocopy. They didn't give you any score sheets. I wish they would have given you a pad of score sheets, but they don't. They give you a thing to copy if you want to copy it.
Well, I mean, it's better than not.
Yeah. All in all, I think it's a decent rule book. I think, they needed to do a little more editing on it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7, I think.
Okay, cool. All right, so now let's talk about actual gameplay. So whoever's first player, they're going to take their action. And to take an action, you're going to any available ship. So that ship could be another player's ship. That could be this main board here, or it could be your own ship.
And when we say ship, we're talking about these cards, which you start the game. Everybody has a set of 5 beginner cards that everybody gets, and then you draft normally for the other ones. If you're playing the first time, they give you sets of ships and the central outpost for your hub, for your ship, or your space station. And that set is used for each player, and it's designed specifically to kind of balance and give you special strengths and weaknesses compared to other players. And you also get a setting in the middle of the board as far as where you start with your stats. Now, the hubs on the back of them have your starting resources, so you have all those. Based upon which hub you get, you'll get variable powers and you'll get variable resources to start the game. Carry on.
All right, so then you're going to go to the ship location, and you're going to pay the cost that's here in this corner. Now, you'll notice that there is another number on next to it. So that number is if you're playing on another player's board. So you have to pay this much on the card, and then you have to pay this amount to the player that owns the ship. So basically it's the rent. Okay, so 4 is actually, in this case, 4 is actually to complete the action. 3 is to the person who owns it. Now, if you own it, you're paying yourself. It's a moot point. Don't worry about it. But if you're taking another person's ship, which I may not have done a couple of times this game, you did it to me too, so I don't want to hear it. But that is so doable. So I'm going to put my crystals on here. I should have a change of 1, but I'm not going to worry about this go around. All right, and then I get to trigger the action. Now, there's a couple of actions that we got going on, each differentiated by the colors of the cards. Oh, thank you. All right, so the red is actually salvaging or scrapping a ship. So I may decide, all right, I'm going to scrap my ship. This particular card is giving me 2 additional iron steel. You'll see the steel number up here. So whatever ship you're going to scrap, you're going to get this. So I'm going to get 6. And in this particular case, I'm going to get +2. So I'm going to get 8 steel, and I will be putting it in my player board, and that's what I have for future reference.
Now, you can only scrap a ship that is unused because those crystals stay on the ship. Even though you'll move your action marker around, that ship cannot be used again until someone recycles takes their income phase, where they'll remove all the crystals from all their ships, and those ships become playable again or scrappable. Because you can't scrap them while there's any crystals on them.
Okay, all right. So then the other thing is this resource gathering one. So this one's very straightforward. You roll 8 dice, you collect 5 or whatever the amount is on there. And this just gives you resources. It can give you steel, water, food, or astronauts, which allows you to trade certain goods for astronauts that you can then place on your space station to cover. Now, these are only astronauts. These are the silver astronauts. That is not how you get other aliens to come live in your space station, which we'll discuss in a moment.
Now, the astronauts are unique because they can go in any of the sectors, because there's differences between the pink, brown, and teal. those are designed to be habitable by specific races of aliens. The astronauts can go in any of them, as can the gold aliens.
Correct. All right, so then the next one is the trade action. So you're going to take resources and you're going to do things with them. For example, if I can trade for an alien, I can trade for a wild alien or the gold alien, or I can change resources into other resources, or I can straight up pay power points for stuff. So that's this trade action here. This gives you the amount that you're allowed to do that. So I'm allowed 3 trade actions. There are special abilities that add to this, etc., so forth. All right, then I actually have my build action. So this is a build action. This one also gives me a discount of 2. So I'm going to go then take my steel that I just received, and I'm going to build part of my space station. And then I will place it on. Okay.
Now, the builds don't all give you discounts of 2. Some of them don't give you any discount.
Right.
Some of them are better than others. So you have to pay more crystals, but you get a better benefit.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, like the trade ratio, it's 3 crystals for a steel. So if you think about it that way, this 8 here, normally you pay 4 to build, right? So you're paying 4 for 2 steel. It's actually a really good exchange rate. So that's why this card is useful. All right. And you don't have to take an action of trading, right? So you can just get the steel automatically. All right. The last color action is the civilization tradeness going on. So not trade, but civilization. So basically you're increasing your stats now as
diplomacy action.
Yeah, diplomacy. So as you increase your relationship with certain corporations and things like that, you'll get benefits for doing a particular action. And based on where you're at on the board, when you take the action, everyone on the board gets the benefit when that event is triggered, but based on your location. So if I'm the highest, I will get from that point down. If someone's tying me, I have to go from 1 space down and below. And if I'm anywhere below anybody else, I have to go 1 space below where I'm located.
You typically only get 1 of the spaces, though. You don't get everything below. It's just you choose from the ones below.
Right.
When you get to the top 2, then you get to pick from 2 of the items listed below, but they have to be different ones.
Correct. So fairly important. So basically this is your standard, increase your stat.
Yeah. Now, in addition to those ships, there's other ships in the deck as well that you could get. I had one that gave me plants and one that gave me water that I started the game with.
Right. And in case, that might be beneficial because you don't have to mess with rolling, but then you have a lack of steel, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some other stuff going on, but generally speaking, these are the, I guess, main actions that you can take. And so you take your turn, so you go there, you spin the thing, your other player goes, then you come back, you move that ship. But this is used up, then say I go to do this, I just spin stuff here. And then, all right, so I am down, I have less than 7 crystals, and or some of my ships have been used. I can then trigger the income round. So I'm going to pay all of the crystals that were on here, and then I'm going to take my income. So I'm going to count. I get 1 crystal for every ship I currently have that is up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then I also get the income that is on my board. So based on the aliens that are being housed in my spaceship, they give me income. In which case I get 4 victory points. I get 2 water and 2 plants. I get a bunch of crystals. And so I get all of that at my income phase. So then that's taken care of. And then it goes to the next round. And you keep going back and forth. Not everyone's going to trigger the income round at the same time. However, I did notice at the end, I was trying to last so you wouldn't take certain ships.
Yeah, there was a lot of strategy around when you took your income to prevent somebody from, because I know we were fighting over the diplomacy spaces. Now there is another option, which is that there's a central board that everybody can go to that has a very bad exchange rate, but you can go there and use an action. And we did it a few times, but there you put your marker on it and no one can use that one again until you do the income phase. But the marker stays on the board, so you can't use another one of those actions.
Yeah, it's a pretty costly endeavor to do.
Yeah, we didn't do it a whole lot, but it did come in handy a few times.
Yeah, I did at the beginning to see how it functioned, and it was just too expensive to make it feasible.
Yeah.
But it was a catch-up mechanism, though, for me to be able to catch up with you on the diplomacy, because he started out with more than I did. So overall, here's what I gotta say. I didn't know who was winning throughout the game, which I kind of like, kind of don't like. But I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I kind of knew I was winning, but I liked it. I mean, the thing
I don't
is
like the fact that
I won.
That I won. Yeah, you won.
Yeah, because you get a lot of points for just building your complete space station, which is one of the things that can cause the end of the game. Another one is if someone reaches 40 victory points during the end game scoring. It seems less likely, but it is possible, I guess. You were getting up there, but it wasn't close to the 40-point mark.
Well, I mean, the thing is towards the end, I started dragging out my income, and maybe I should have just taken my income all the time.
You were getting a lot of victory points during the game, whereas I wasn't.
Right. And then I kind of stagged on... I think there's a finesse that I have to get my head around, because I think there's a lot going on here, which is one of the reasons why I will say I had a lot of fun. Okay, because you're managing the crystals, and you can keep playing and not taking the income. But part of me is like, but there were so many advantages for me to take my income. Mm-hmm. In the back of my mind, was it really worth me saving this space?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was or not. Specifically, because most of the time, like as I was up here on these two, but most of the time I just took the crystals anyway. So, but like here would have been really good because I needed the steel, so I should have went up higher. So I think there's some play here that we kind of need to work through. Absolutely.
Well, I think that you've got. I think one thing I took advantage of before you did was the scrapping, because the scrapping it's counterintuitive because you're destroying a ship, and once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get ships again. So the ships you start with in the beginning of the game, that's all you get. Now you had more ships than I did to start the game out.
No, you did.
No, I did. Okay.
You had more because you got the extras.
Okay. But it wasn't that much difference. We had about the same number. But either way, scrapping the ships is counterintuitive because you're getting rid of spaces that you can go to and take actions. But that's the biggest source of getting steel, which is what you need in order to build our space station. So in order, to get that, the only other options are rolling and hoping you get steel on the dice. And
I got pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, well, and then there's this exchange rate, 3, 4, whatever.
But that's really bad exchange rate. And also, you can potentially get steel from income from your board, because I already got one that gave me income on the board. But it's hard to come by one or two. You get one or two at a time, and you need a lot to build, especially those higher end sections of the space station.
Right. I think, well, and then like this building that gives me -2, I mean, that was super helpful because it made everything too less.
Yeah, it was helpful for me too.
Yeah, but no, going to play this again, I would play it a little bit differently because I do think there's some stuff there. Like I went up these 2 tracks quickly because like you can get your steel, and then I would have moved up to like maybe here and just kept getting the crystals. And then like there was times that I scrapped a trade. I wouldn't have done that. I would have spent my 3 crystals to get my steel. Right, even though it's not a great exchange rate, there was one time I couldn't build because I was short 1 steel. Right, so if I had used that action, spent the crystals, then I could have had enough to build, which would have put me in place where I could have built 1 more time, which could have evened out the game. Right, so I think that's very, very. There's a lot. I actually really enjoyed this more than I thought it would. It's a shame the pieces. I will say, even though the pieces aren't, at least they're shiny and pretty.
I didn't have a problem with them per se. It was just that they don't stand out. There's nothing special about them. But I did like the card art, as I mentioned.
I like the color palette. The color palette that they got going on was at least some saving grace, because if they did not have this color palette, I think it would have been dreary.
Yeah.
So that aspect.
And who knows? Maybe this space is populated with brown cube aliens and teal triangular aliens.
Listen, obviously there are water aliens, and obviously these are golems of
blue aliens, and I don't know, popsicle aliens.
No, we're pink. I mean, ish.
Okay, whatever.
I mean, if you put me in the sun, I get a little red. No, I mean, so it's possible. But yeah, no, overall, I actually really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this quite a bit, actually. I'm actually going to give this a 9 on gameplay. I actually really did like it. I had a lot of fun.
I don't know that this one's going to hold up over time. I think it'll be fine for a while. I think it's going to, there's not a lot of variance to it, I don't think. I'm probably more of like a 7.5 to an 8. I don't think it's, I mean, I liked it a lot, but I think it's going to depreciate over time.
I think it's going to be fun when you add a couple people to this.
Oh, I think it will be better with more players too. I think there'll be a lot more interacting with each other as boards because we didn't have a whole lot of that interaction going on during the game. And, you know, there was a couple times we blocked each other, particularly towards the end when we started realizing that there's certain spaces that were going to be advantageous for the other player that would be advantageous for me too. So I'm going to go over there and do it. And we also timed our income phases around that to prevent or to...
That's what I'm saying. I honestly think this is a game where the more you learn, the more the strategy really comes out. And I don't think it will get stale depending on... I mean, you might have two people who do the same thing over and over. But I think when you add people and do some stuff... Well, and then the card, these are changed, right? I mean, How many more of these are there?
There's a significant number of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is a good, solid base. It'd be interesting to see what adding that they could add to it. But I think it's great. I actually really enjoyed it. So, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had a blast tonight. And hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.